Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо робочий день і запрошуємо.
Dear colleagues, would like to continue our working day, and now speaking now is Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The most important events of yesterday in the ATO area at Mariupol, the number of provocation has reduced and has been reducing. The militants once fired at the ATO positions from using the grenade launcher and small weapons. The sniper was active there at Lebedynsky settlement. There was an engagement, but thanks to the professional actions of the military, there were no casualties. The hottest spot was at Donetsk. The militants are still trying to get deeper into the territory of Ukraine. At Marinka, that area, we had two engagements. Militants were actively using heavy weaponry, 120 millimeter mortars, 122 millimeter artillery, and also the armored vehicles. At Marinka, there was firing from armored personnel carrier, and also they used tanks at Berezovka and Opitne. And also they had 7 tank shelling from the militant side on that line. And at Novhorodsky, the militants used 120 millimeter mortars and 122 millimeter artillery. At Luhansk, at Sakilnik and Zolot, the militants were active using the wide spectrum of weaponry, 122 millimeter mortars and 122 and 152 millimeter artillery. There were fierce combats. The Ukrainian armed forces repelled a subversive group at Lopaskine, and there was an engagement at Shastya. About 10 to 5 in the morning a.m., militants used Grad's anti-missile units, and the community was fighted from Permysk and Klinovo. From each point they fired 20 shells. Ukrainian party at the Joint Center of Control Coordination documented this firing. Several shells hit the residential area. 2 flats were destroyed. Nobody was killed, fortunately, and now military officers were helping the tenants. This is not just another breach of ceasefire, but this is a demonstration of the fact that militants have no worth for the civilians' lives. According to information on the State Border Guard Service, 4 drones made flight for the purposes of intelligence yesterday as a result of active combats and fighting and shelling. We had no people killed, but 7 were wounded. And the discontent is spreading in the temporarily occupied territories. In Donetsk, there was a meeting of local residents who didn't want the population to be used as a living shield. And among militants, there are clashes, and they have posters in the residential blocks against the Donetsk People's Republic, signed by the all-great Don Cossack army. Militants cannot do anything. They just increase the repressions against the Donbas people. They make raids and visit private flats, preventing people from joining the protests, and also the local taxi drivers asked to inform of the so-called enemies of the so-called Donetsk People's Republics. Militants are trying to get amnesty from the Ukrainian authorities for the thugs, and they are afraid of the punishment and cannot rely upon Russia for assistance anymore. Ukrainian special forces apprehended one militant. There was another successful special operation on this. That was proxy for the leader of the terrorist group, Communist Revolutionaries. The leader of the anti-Ukrainian movement is in Torres, that is under control of so-called Donetsk People's Republics. The Odessa resident was instructed by his handler to establish contact with the radical formations in Odessa and create the underground movement to destabilize the situation in the region, and that had to be done through terrorist attacks also in the terrorists' dwelling. They seized shells, grenades for the grenade launchers and computer equipment and the maps. Ukrainian border guards prevented an attempt to smuggle into Ukraine ammunition. They stopped the Ukrainian national at the crossing point Chonga. He was trying to smuggle 32 shells, pieces of ammunition, 7.62 millimeters, and he was transferred to the police. 220 terminals were blocked that illegally operated in the temporarily occupied territories of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast. Part of the cash was used for funding of the so-called independent republics. Ukrainian military officers continue near their everyday exercises. The coastal guards, our navy, had the course of firing drill and shelling drill with the groups of warships, naval aviation and marines. The artillery units were successful on that drill. The Navy of Ukraine for the period from the 15th to the 18th of June had tactical exercise with the Navy, naval and aviation and marine components, with the joint actions of tactical groups of warships, marines, naval aviation, coastal artillery, and the army. Also, the veterans of anti-terrorist operation were involved in that exercise. The planned rotations continues with the Ukrainian police and other detachments for the special battalion police Mykolaiv replaced their comrades who were providing for policing in the ATO area, in the ATO area. And they were reinforced and well equipped by the Ministry of Interior and volunteers. Also, a joint detachment of police officers went to the ATO area from Khmelnytsky region. 60 volunteers joined the joint detachment equipped with all the technical means, the equipage and fuel and lubricants. After in the operation exercise, they went to the east with the two special trained dogs for search of explosives. In the ATO area, we also now have two jeeps. Community from Slavut provided a van, and a car was provided by the Transcarpathian region. Another story from the front line. This soldier for 9 months has been an intelligence officer. His nickname is Mongol, and he was on several occasions in engagement with the Russian subversives. A month ago, at the front line, he celebrated his 25th birthday. The most valuable thing he got from his wife. That was a silencer for the rifle and the British outfit, because for an intelligence officer it's best to use disguise to be impossible to identify and to be able to be mobile. He has no regrets. He's here to prevent adversary, and he won't give up any piece of the territory. If you have any questions, please. Thank you very much. Colonel, the first question. 112, TV channel Alexandra Krochmal. About situation with the tornado battalion. Have they left their base and have they started any investigation? And about the situation with the battalion. How did it happen that people were not checked? There's people who became officers there because they had criminal records previously. And will they thus inspect other volunteer battalions with a criminal record? For the first question, I'm not prepared to answer. There's no information. In terms of checking and inspecting people from the Ministry of Interior, from the National Guard, yes, indeed, we need such a check for the personnel, and that should be done. People should have no criminal record. They should be mentally stable and have some military specialty. These are the basic conditions for the people who are meant to serve in the terrorist operation zone, for the military units, of course. Do you know anything about the situation? How did it happen that people penetrated the battalion, people with some mental instability? With the time, the investigation, I suppose, will answer many questions. So let's wait. We will get all the answers from the military prosecutor's office. Thank you very much. Another question. Sergei Kotnikov, Man-Inform news agency. You, Colonel, you mentioned the all great Don Cossack army and the illicit militant units that are raiding the territory of Ukraine. This is an organization that is registered with the Ministry of Justice of Ukraine. Have you any information on exclusion of the Cossack and so-called NGOs currently fighting on the terrorist sites, deleting them from the state register? And do you know anything about the Ukrainian Cossacks? Are there any Cossack units in the Ukrainian army? Thank you very much for this question. We have no information on any specific Ukrainian Cossack units. In the ATO, we have only military units of the Ministry of Defense, the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Ministry of Interior, the Security Service of Ukraine, and the Border Guards. We know that in these units there are volunteers who are descendants of the Ukrainian Cossacks. They are very proud of the fact and they support the Cossack traditions in Ukraine. And I would like to tell you that it would be a right thing to do, that after the anti-terrorist operation and establishment of peace in Donbass, all these Cossacks who will come back to the NGOs, they will serve as a best example of Ukrainian Cossacks, the Ukrainian Cossacks. Are there any further questions? No questions, as it seems. Thank you very much. That's it for today, and tomorrow we'll have